I read some interesting articles over the weekend. One of them was an op-ed that was in the New York Times. This actually came out on July 2nd. I didn't read it until the weekend. It's called The Rock and the Hard Place on the Deficit, and it was written by Christina Romer, who used to chair President Obama's Council on Economic Advisors. She is also an economic professor at my alma mater, UC Berkeley. And if you read this op-ed, you really understand how clueless the people are who are professors that are leading universities and advising the President of the United States. Now, the purpose of her op-ed was to debunk this idea that cutting government spending will help the economy. Christina Romer's point is no, if we cut government spending, it's going to hurt the economy, that the way we need to address the budget deficit is by raising taxes on the rich. And according to Christina, that will not hurt the economy. And the reason that she's confident that raising taxes on the rich won't hurt the economy, but cutting government spending will, is that when you raise taxes on the rich, that they're just going to take those extra taxes out of their savings. So that raising taxes on the rich will not reduce spending in the economy. It will simply reduce savings, and a reduction in the rate of savings is not harmful to the economy. The only thing that hurts the economy is to reduce spending. I mean, complete and absolute nonsense. She doesn't understand that the very basis of our problems is too much spending, and that the only solution involves more savings and less spending. Yet she is in favor of higher taxes specifically because it will reduce savings. How is it that Christina Romer can believe that a reduction in savings somehow doesn't impact the economy? Where does she think capital investment comes from? Where does she think businesses get the resources to grow and expand? Where do you think money comes from to hire new workers? It's coming from savings. It's coming from retained earnings. That's where it's coming from. And if you reduce savings, you reduce capital investment, you reduce business expansion, you reduce employment. That's what hurts the economy. Now, maybe Christina Romer would have a point if her goal is to try to keep the phony economy going a little bit longer, trying to keep our nation spending money that we should save. If that's her goal, well, then maybe she has a point. But if her goal is to create jobs, which everybody seems to believe is a goal, to create meaningful employment and a growing economy, then the last thing that you would want to do is eat the seed corn, which is what she wants in proposing higher taxes on incomes, because in her mind, that's just going to reduce the savings rate. I mean, the savings rate is already minute. The last thing we need is to take the minuscule savings rate that we have and make it even smaller to try to perpetuate more spending. And, of course, the spending that we're getting through government spending is a waste. I mean, she doesn't even bother to consider what we're spending the money on. As far as Christina Romer is concerned, as long as it's being spent, that's all that counts. It doesn't even matter if the government is spending it on things that we'd rather not have or that we don't need, or if the government is spending the money in a way that undermines the productivity of the rest of the economy. If we simply spend more money on government and government takes that money and uses it to erect more roadblocks and more barriers in front of private industry to render them even less expensive, then not only isn't that spending helpful to the economy, it's specifically undermining the economy's ability to grow. It is hurting the economy. And, of course, spending that comes at the expense of savings, of course, is hurting the economy. Eventually, the net result of all this is going to be skyrocketing interest rates. And, we're going to be looking at a similar situation that you're looking at in Greece right now. I'm looking at a chart of where Greek interest rates were. Back in July of 2009, that's not too long ago, 3 years ago, overnight or two-year government bonds in Greece yielded 1.78%. That's it, 1.78. In January of 2010, 3.47, still low. They started moving up later that year to 9.73 in July of 2010. By January of 11, they were at 12.2, and now they're at 26.5%. look how quickly rates go up. Imagine what would happen to the United States if rates went up the way they did in Greece. It's going to happen if we listen to Christina Romer. Anyway, don't go away. We got more of the Peter Schiff Show coming up after this break. You're listening to the Peter Schiff Show on SchiffRadio.com.
The Peter Schiff Show.